Good morning. Today is September 25th, 2023. We're just a few days into the fall season of 2023, which also means political things get heated up. I'm Suzanne McAllister of the Post-Animal Use World Project, or PAW, P-A-U-W, Conversations with a Friendly Vegan, and the Vegan Spirituality Group of Philadelphia. And today I'm happy to introduce you to our PAW's next featured visionary, and he is Max Broad of DC Voters for Animals. And Max and I met a few years ago on a Zoom. It was during the pandemic, and it was a vegan meditation meeting. And I was just so thrilled. There was a little discussion afterward, and I got to know a little bit more about what Max was doing. And since I have a background in politics and government, and obviously I'm a now full-time animal advocate, now that I'm a retired psychologist, I was really interested in hearing about the work that he's doing. So we did an interview a couple of years ago, which is lengthier. We'll tell you more about Max's journey to veganism and how he got involved, or how I don't remember now if you started DC Animals or what you did. Okay. So that will give you a more thorough background. But having said that, so today I wanted to just update that conversation. I will put that link in the newsletter that's going to be going out. But maybe you can tell us just a little bit about your background, and then about DC Voters for Animals.
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. So really great to be here. Nice to see you again.
Yes.
And my background is really in climate advocacy. And that's what led me to veganism and animal rights, is just wanting to make the world a better place. And really, I hate suffering. I hate seeing suffering. And so I want to do everything I can to make sure that not only am I not contributing to it, but I'm contributing to systems that alleviate suffering and make the world a better place. That's what I'm passionate about. So, my background, as I said, was in climate change and really in climate and democracy, right? It's just like having individual people be part of changing systems through the governance process, through politics, to make the world better aligned with our values of equality and protection and freedom. And so, that's why I started DC Voters for Animals. Today is actually our 4th anniversary. And, we launched 4 years ago because we wanted to see that, make sure that DC's priorities for animal protection are reflected in the political process.
Well, I'm going to ask you some specific questions about how one gets involved on the local level. But before I do that, what are you currently working on with DC Voters for Animals?
Yeah, great question. So a couple of things that I'm really pumped about. The big thing right now is we have a bill in DC Council that we're really eager to get passed to ban the sale of fur. As you know, most people now consider fur to be outdated and incredibly inhumane. It's so ridiculous that animals are being kept in cages in factory farms just to be turned into somebody's coat or a tire, or to garnish a piece of their clothing. I'm glad the world is evolving to move past fur, and we're ready for DC to pass a bill that's been introduced and moving forward to ban the sale of fur. So that's a cornerstone of our work. We're also getting ready for some new campaigns dealing with a similar topic of animals that are force-fed to create foie gras, another like really inhumane, outdated thing. And also, as I mentioned, I'm a climate activist, so really looking at the intersection of food systems and climate, and paying more attention to how plant-rich foods can be central in climate solutions.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll be looking forward to seeing how you make out with those campaigns. So I want to ask you, this is maybe more of a philosophical question, but in general, are you, and today is your 4th anniversary, how serendipitous is that? Congratulations, happy anniversary. Are you more optimistic or pessimistic than when you started 4 years ago?
That's a great question. And I'll tell you, I go through roller coasters. I just go through hills and valleys of, sometimes I feel like it's going to take forever to get this stuff done. And sometimes I feel like, oh, it's, we're making moves and doors are being open and there's beauty in the world. So, I don't want to sugarcoat and say that it's not, I don't get daunted by the size of the journey, but I'll tell you this, it's not slowing me down.
Yeah, I hear you. And first of all, I really appreciate the honesty of what you just said. And it matches certainly my experience. And I think it probably matches the experience of anybody who's involved in doing this work. There are the successes, and then there are the feelings of being overwhelmed and helpless and hopeless. But like you, until my last dying breath, if I'm still, with it, this is what I'm going to be doing. So, oh yeah, no, nothing is going to stop me either. No. But you've got a lot more years to go than I do. So, and I feel like, just as we were talking about that, I have to say that a disappointment for me recently was the passing of Toki Te, the orca who had been at the Miami Seaquarium for 53 years, because we were this close to her going home. However, many of us are turning that into as positive a thing as we can. And I think that's what we do, is when there's a setback or a disappointment or grief, that we say, okay, I'm not going to deny it, like you just said, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but how can I turn that energy into something positive? So in some ways you've kind of alluded to it, but I know you and I bonded initially over the importance of getting involved on the local level. I had read that book. I can't remember the title now, but Hirsch, I think his last name was. And he wrote about and validated.
Oh, yes. Etienne Hirsch.
Yes. Gave those examples of what can happen on the local level. And I, last summer, volunteered at my state rep's campaign office. He was in a very safe seat, but I thought, I'm going to go and just be of service. And I thought it's a way for me to get connected on a more local level. And I'm going to ask you a question, which you may or may not be able to help me with. So I did that all summer. Now, Napoleon Nelson, who is my state rep, knows me, and I have some credibility with him. I never found a way to bring animal advocacy into the conversation. If there was ever a meal, which there were a few times, he brought food in to thank us, and I would say, oh gee, I can't eat the pizza, I'm vegan. So I would put it out there, and a couple of people would ask me questions, some of the other volunteers, but I never felt like I had a doorway. I didn't quite know how to begin the conversation with him. So I'm asking you, you've been at this at least for 4 years. Any ideas, suggestions for me or for anybody else who is watching this, who wants to get involved on the local level, maybe has a relationship with somebody in their township or in their town or their state rep? We can talk about the federal level in a moment. That's another whole story. How to bring up the conversation.
Yeah, it's such a good question, Suzanne. And so I'll say this. There's a big reason why former politicians, retired members of Congress, retired elected officials end up after their term in public service become high-powered, well-paid lobbyists. And that's because people return their calls. When somebody knows who you are and knows that you're a valuable contributor to them in some way or respect, like you've been for Mr. Nelson's work, they're much more likely to return your calls and return your emails. It doesn't mean that they're going to do what you want to do, but at least they'll hear you out. Yeah. So, you know, you can count on the fact that should you reach out, Mr. Nelson will at least be receptive to what you're saying. Now, how to make it fit into, you know, some actual next steps. And really, I think a big part of lobbying is there's either two approaches, right? You either show that there's demand from the community and there's like grassroots support, or you show that it's something that already fits into their value set. Okay. And so, you know, maybe there's a way that Mr. Nelson's interests relate to the topics that we care about. And, you know, it could be a variety of ways, but the nice thing about animals is that everybody has a foot in the door with the game of animal loving in some respect, right? So it's just about finding that, you know, where that starting point is.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that helps. It makes me think, gee, is there something I can do in my community, get a petition started about something that I care about? And the other is perhaps looking at the bills that are currently in front of the Pennsylvania legislature and see if any of them have something to do with animal advocacy. So that's good. That helps me to, it's good for me to have practical steps to take. And that's why I wanted to have this phone call with you, because I thought you are working on a level where it is practical and you are meeting with the people who are making the decisions, and you're close to the action, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, one topic that's really big right now is opposing the EATS Act. Okay. And, you know, that's a measure in Congress that the pork industry is backing to overturn California's Prop 12, which is this amazing, you know, bill for or ballot proposition that passed by an overwhelming majority of California voters who said, no, farm animals should not be confined to tiny crates that are so small the animal can't even turn around. Correct. And so now the pork industry is trying to overturn that with the EATS Act. And there's been a great movement in Pennsylvania to get the Pennsylvania delegation in Congress to oppose the EATS Act. Okay. And there's been bipartisan support from Pennsylvania. So if you're familiar with our friends up at Humane Action Pittsburgh, they've been doing a lot on this, and I see real promise.
That's a great, thank you for that. I'm going to add one thing which has to do with going back to where you said you have your ups and downs. One of the things my colleague Ann Piotrowski, who I work with closely on both the PAW Project and Conversations with a Friendly Vegan, and she wrote a piece about this recently, is all of the positive, compassionate things we see in our daily life. That the regular media is not at all interested in talking about what's going on that's positive. That's number one. And number two, really what we hear about is what's going on nationally, not what's going on the local level. And I think most people then think, well, what can I do? It's, you know, and having said that, as you probably know, the Farm Bill is up again, as it is every 5 years. I wrote to both of my senators and my U.S. Rep, Madeline Dean, and I said, I do not want my tax dollars going to support the meat and dairy industry so that they can artificially keep prices low and therefore people keep eating this stuff, which is not good for them and it's horrible for the animals. And I got these canned responses. I mean, they did not address what I said at all. Now, I'll go back to them again and say, you really didn't address my concern, which is I don't want my tax dollars going to these industries. But I think when we're that far removed from the people, Madeline Dean doesn't know me, neither do either of my senators personally, whereas Napoleon, my state rep, does know me personally. So it's one of the advantages of working on a more local level. I don't know
Right.
whether you want to say anything about that. And then I had just one more question for you.
Yeah, Susanna, it reminds me of a few years ago when Cory Booker was running for president and on the national debate stage, and the moderator asked Cory Booker if he wants people to go vegan. And he said no.
I know.
And for politicians like Cory Booker, who are on the vanguard of this topic, it's a political calculus,
Yes.
right? Cory Booker thinks to himself, am I going to gain more votes or lose more votes by saying yes?
Yes.
And so we just need to back these politicians so that they know that they will gain more votes by being on our side. And so, as you reach out to the Farm Bill, I heavily applaud you for being so proactive. And, they're going to hear more and more from us as a community on these topics. People are learning how important it is to engage on these political topics. And so don't stop, don't slow down reaching out to them and communicating them, and just being present in their inbox and their voicemail, because as people do it more and more, they will catch on.
Yeah, no, and I do know that they pay attention to the people who reach out. I mean, they hear it. So my last question for you is, number one, how can the people who are listening to this, how might they support you in the work you're doing? And if they have no way to support you other than maybe making a donation, which I would encourage, is there a way that they can use the model of DC voters in their local communities?
Yeah, thanks. So I highly encourage everybody to get involved in the political process. If you feel like it's something you're interested in, I highly recommend it. Suzanne, you spearheaded interest and efforts in your own state, which is just magnificent. And to see, local level action happening and growing, it helps build momentum for state and national action. And so, just knowing who your representatives are everywhere from local to national, who your politicians are. And then, if you have time to plug in and are interested in politics and systems change, find out if there's groups like Suzanne's in your area, or if there's not, connect with the Humane Society. They have a program called Humane Policy Volunteer Leaders, HPVLs. It's kind of a mouthful, but it's a great program for, getting oriented on how to do politics and systems change. Highly recommend that. And as you mentioned, Suzanne, today for our 4th birthday, I don't know when this is coming out, but we have a matching fund. It's not a 2 times matching fund, but a 3 times matching fund. Wow. So for anybody who does want to contribute, every gift will be tripled. And we are using that to finance some really important polling we're doing around our upcoming campaigns.
That's fabulous. So if somebody wanted to make a donation today, would it be matched 3 times today, or only when the campaign starts?
Yeah, it'll be matched. We're running the campaign right now, so it will be matched right now.
Beautiful. Yeah. Max, thank you so much for making time. It's always, I always feel excited and encouraged when I speak to you.
Well, thanks, Susanna. I really appreciate you making some time to chat with me, and it's always really, really lovely to see you.
Great. Thank you so much, and good luck and congratulations on your 4th anniversary. I look forward to hearing how these campaigns go.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.